Lesson number 1, the feminine takes her time. You wait until you're actually properly ready to do things, and you don't feel the need to rush according to some like actually totally fake timeline outside of you. So just always give yourself the time you need so you can more fully arrive presently at something. So welcome everybody. I'm super pumped to have this talk with you today, and I'm really glad it's a small group because I'm a big fan of the mic, and the mic is just not working. So I'm glad that we're not too far. I just prefer to not strain my voice. Fuck. Great. I just burnt myself with my incense. No big deal. So yeah, my name is Emily. I'm a fertility awareness educator. So I teach people how to chart their cycles for healing, for health, as well as for conscious contraception that's been proven to be up to 99.6% effective, and also can be used for conception. So cycle charting as we go through it today is less about quote unquote natural birth control, because I really just don't like using that term. And it's a lot more about integrative body literacy and what it looks like to have a lifelong skill that can support us through so many different passageways, from monarchy, through our maiden years, through our motherhood years, through menopause, and through crondom. And really coming in to see that if we are in deep connection to our body, we are actually smart enough to manage our sexual choices ourselves. And we do hold the power to decide when we want to hold life, when we would like to release life, and just coming to see that fertility awareness method is nothing quote unquote new or modern. Fertility management is very ancient, but we are very lucky that we get to fuse together these ancient knowings and these wise women ways with the modern, grounded, practical essence of what we know now about the body, and really bring those two things together for conscious contraception that really actually works. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're just going to be weaving through quite a few different types of activities. So we're going to be doing some touch with our body. We're going to be doing a little game to kick off. We're going to be doing some chatting. And then I really hope to leave a lot of time for questions, because I feel like that's where a lot of the juice of the workshop comes up, and what you're wondering, what you're curious about. Does that sound good to everybody? Yes, so we're going to start with a little game just to get you moving. I'm going to say some phrases. I'm going to say some statements. And if you think it's true, you're going to stand up tall and show me a thumbs up like this. And if you think it's false, you're going to squat down real low and put an X across your body. Does that sound good? Okay, let's all start standing. And obviously clothing optional. Feel free at any point to take off your clothes. You can get pregnant any day of your cycle. Pregnancy is just lurking around the corner, coming for you. It is false. Yes, it is false. I'm really excited for you to stick with the session, stick through the session with us. Okay, the next one. Sperm can live in the body for up to a week. Sperm can live in the body for up to a week. Ooh, why are you saying false?
I was thinking like 5 days.
Yeah, so sperm can live not even necessarily in the body for up to 5 days, because our vagina is actually an acidic ecosystem that kills them instantly, but sperm can live in cervical mucus for up to 5 days. So only when you are making a fertile fluid that supports sperm and keeps them alive can they survive for maximum 5 days. That's the most robust, the most healthy, that are getting like all of your beautiful fertile juices. But outside of that time that you're making a fertile fluid, they die within minutes inside your vaginal ecosystem that has the same acidity as like a glass of wine. Okay, so the next one is going to be fertility awareness method is the same as the rhythm method.
I'm not familiar. So
Take a guess. Fertility awareness method is the same as the rhythm method. Cool. So that is false. The rhythm method is about counting days and using the averages of your past cycle to try to guess and predict what's going on in your body today, right now. And fertility awareness method is the daily mindfulness practice of checking in with what's going in within your body today, right now, so you can know what's going on. And it has nothing to do with guessing, predicting, or looking back. Okay, I'm gonna do one more. Let me think. Yeah, you can ovulate twice in the same cycle. You can ovulate more than once in the same cycle. You can ovulate, and then like a week later, you can ovulate again. My favorite part of this game is the facial expression. It's like a lot of like... False. You can only ovulate twice in the same 24 hours. So that's what happens in the case of twins, triplets, etc. That if you release 2 eggs, then you could conceive twins at the same time. But once you ovulate, it's impossible to ovulate again. Your body completely inhibits another round of ovulation because it wouldn't really make sense, right? Like, you've ovulated and now your body is preparing to see if there's a bun in the oven. It's not going to try and ovulate again. And we'll go deeper into this when we look at this handout that you got with a lot of the different color coding, etc. So I'm really excited to keep digging in further with all of you. But now that you're settled into your seats, we're just going to start by really connecting to the body before we get deeper and deeper into the nerding out. So in your own time, in your own way, whenever you're ready, I just invite you to get really comfortable in your body, closing down the eyes if that feels good for you. If you'd rather hover them open and just soften your eyes on a gaze point, that's totally cool. And while we sit here in stillness, just know that if at any point you need to adjust or re-lengthen the spine, that's totally fine. Meditation is all about learning how to make micro adjustments so we can better support ourselves. Bring your awareness down to your pelvis, getting really earthy and grounded through the hips, through the legs. And just imagine that everything below your belly button is buried in dirt. You are literally grounded, literally in the ground, gestating, rooting. And just drawing length and space between each vertebrae, coming to sit up nice and tall. And softening all the muscles around the eyes as if the outer corners of the eyes are falling back towards your ears, creating a soft, open forehead. Just giving all of that wondering, all of that curiosity that came up in our little game, and just letting it wash down the spine, pooling in the low belly, knowing that the science and the facts and the truth and the myths will all be alchemized within a deeper knowing of your embodied experience in your womb. So letting go of the mind's desire to really figure everything out in this moment, and just knowing that all the truths are there within you if you just can get quiet enough to listen to your body. Let the forehead soft, slightly part the lips, let any facial expression dissolve so you're not trying to be a certain type of version of yourself here today. Slightly part the lips. And drawing your awareness next to the shoulders. We carry so much in our shoulders, in our neck, so anything that's going on with you outside of this session, just take it off of your shoulders right here, right now. Noticing the way that releasing tension through the shoulders just allows our heart to open a little bit more. And lastly, your sacred womb space, a couple inches below your belly button, just let it be soft. Gently pulsing out and back in as you breathe. So not trying to sit up with rigidity, but allow the womb to take up all of that beautiful space that it wants. And if it feels good for you, I invite you to place one of your hands on top of your womb, and then take your other hand with your fingertips and just trace your lips. And as you trace your lips, see if you can really slow down the movement, maybe even pinching your lips to give them a little bit of a massage, a chance to welcome some fresh blood flow. And just notice the sensation, notice if it's dry, if it's smooth, if it's lubricative. And just softening around your edge and even inviting yourself to insert one of your fingers inside your mouth, maybe massaging your gums or feeling your tongue. It can always feel nice to use your thumb for this if you want to bring that other hand from your womb up and use both of your thumbs in your mouth. Full permission to simply explore. And as you explore, just really feel the sensations of those mucosal tissues inside your mouth. The more they're touched, the more they're stimulated, the wetter they become. Perhaps you're finding some tension that you didn't even know was there, or just really sinking into either how confronting this feels or how good this feels. None of these are right and wrong. It's just simply what you're learning about yourself right now. And if your hand is still on your womb, maybe just rubbing your belly and really coming to see that your vaginal tissues, your vaginal ecosystem shares so much in common with your mouth, with your jaw. That jaw-pelvis connection of these mucous membranes in our body that are a supple opening. Think of how connected you are to your mouth. You know the names of the different anatomical parts of your mouth. You take care of it every day with brushing your teeth, with flossing your teeth. It's no big deal. It's just a part of your integrated life. And imagine if connecting to your yoni was the same. In your own time, in your own way, whenever you're ready, you can take your fingers out and just do one final sweep across the lips, noticing the wetness of your fingers. Releasing the hands down. And as you think about that experience in your mouth, the warmth of your palm on your womb, just simply asking yourself, what does fertility mean to me? What does fertility mean to me? In your own time, in your own way, whenever you're ready, I invite you to softly blink open the eyes, taking in the shapes and colors of the room, and grab out that little paper that I passed out to you and just take a few moments to write down, what does fertility mean to you? You could write some words down, you could draw a picture, maybe a sentence came to mind, maybe a mantra. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Or maybe you'd just rather not be written. You'd rather just sit with a frequency you're feeling. And just last couple words, reading the body language of the people beside you, and just in groups of 2 or 3, just go ahead and share your answers. What does fertility mean to you?
the ability and nourishment of our bodies, information, and birth, knowing it is lush, it is sacred, it is love.
And just wrapping up your shares. I would love to just hear you call out some of your answers. What does fertility mean to you? Juicy. Juicy. Love that.
The awareness of knowing what's happening in your body.
Okay, so like self-awareness, bodily awareness.
The ability to create.
Creative power, creative energy. Yeah.
Lushness, sacredness.
Lushness. I love that. Sacredness. Beautiful. Sovereignty. Yes, that it's yours, that it belongs to you. It's within you. It's there. Hey, so really blooming into womanhood, blossoming into that full-grown nature of our capacity. Yeah. And I heard you say something interesting, which is, I've never really thought about it before, right? Yeah, maybe that was you, maybe it was someone else. But I heard someone sharing, I've never really thought about this before, thought about this question before. And the reason I find that so intriguing is if you've never really thought about it before, if it's something that was never really explained to you, then you don't really know what you're losing when it's taken away, right? At the age of 14, when what you're initiated into is, here's a medication, and a medication implies something is sick, right? We take a daily medication. We go see the doctor if we are unwell. And so in our modern world, this initiation into our bleeding is an initiation into, here is a curse, here is a burden, here is a problem, here is a disease, and we have a solution for you that can take all of that away. And then what we are not aware of is like, well, wait, what does fertility even mean? Right? Let alone what does it mean to me? And do I actually want to sink deeper into all of the experiences that it brings up? Knowing that it's not always as convenient, it's not always as simple, but it's more alive, right? It's more present, it's more full. Because as we talk today, I rarely compare fertility awareness method when we're talking about contraception to things like the IUD and the pill. Because it's an utterly, completely different paradigm that it just doesn't feel like they're really worth comparing. Because if what you want is a simple, convenient, easy as pie way to avoid pregnancy, then guess what? Fertility awareness method is not for you. But if what you want is to live in sync with your cycle and feel a connection to your body and receive all of the health benefits of regular ovulation and actually ride the waves of life, then fertility awareness method is a cycle tracking framework to really support you in all of these things. And then the ability to naturally avoid pregnancy is the cherry on top of these sexually sovereign skills. So if we take a look at this paper in front of you that I passed out, you're right now going to get the little chat that you should have gotten in junior high about how your menstrual cycle works, how your body works. Which is, if you take a look at the image, you'll see that there's a handful of red squares at the bottom on the left. Does anyone have a guess as to what those red squares could mean? Period. Yeah, so that's your period. That's menstruation, defined as the beginning of a fresh new cycle. And what do you notice about those hormone levels that are there on that picture during menstruation? They are low. They are all their lowest. Yeah, and they are all, you went like this, like even. So this is why menstruation is thought to be this like inner winter, this inner time of reprieve, this inner time of being introspective where energy levels is lower, because everything within our hormone health is just drawing us into a steady, grounded state, literally. And so this is the dormant time of the cycle. Not much is happening. That's why we should all be saying we have ovulatory cycles, not menstrual cycles. So we can actually have a clear understanding that menstruation is not even the main event of your cycle. Menstruation is the downstream result of the fact that you ovulate. And then from there, when people were making other choices with pharmaceutical birth control, there would be more of a clear distinction of like, oh, what these things are doing is turning off ovulation. They're not regulating our cycle. They're not making my menstruation normal. They're totally disappearing all hormonal activity and putting my body in a state most similar to perimenopause. They're not tricking our body into being pregnant. They're turning off our capacity to hold life. Because what we have is ovulatory cycles. Look at that middle part of the picture. Within the fertile wave, that yellow bracket. What do you notice about all the hormones then?
We're up and down.
Yeah.
Well, they're up. Most of them are up there.
Yeah, well, Jasmine kind of noticed that they're up and down. There's this big dance going on, right? Because 60% of all hormonal activity in your entire cycle takes place around the days that you ovulate. And ovulation is the main driver of your reproductive cycle. Everything in your body is trying to move towards and favor ovulation. And then once ovulation is over and complete, you are on cruise control as you drift towards menstruation once again. So if we take a look at the bottom part, after the red squares, we have some green squares. This would be like our inner spring. I know some of you already chart a little bit, so do you have any guesses as to what those green days would mean? Why are those green and not blue or black, like it is later in the cycle?
Right.
Yeah. So those green squares refer to what we call dry days, meaning infertile days, days where your vagina is your baseline infertile state. That's going to be like the inside of your mouth right now. So even if you just did that again and looked, your vagina is never going to have absolutely nothing. We don't want our vagina to be dry like our cheek. There's always going to be some level of fluid going on, but it's just going to be your normal baseline fluid of your mucosal tissues of your vaginal walls. But also do things like secrete arousal fluid when you're aroused. But arousal fluid is not fertile because we're such beautiful beings that our arousal response and our reproductive response are actually two different channels that weave and are going to be complementary and going to ebb and flow together. But ultimately, it's two different things in our body, unlike men, where their arousal response and their reproductive response are absolutely one of the same. There's no separation between those two things. Of course, if we really got into the nitty-gritty, there's always going to be more nuance, but just for the simplicity of what you're learning, right? I'm loving the faces right now. People just like already starting to be like, holy fuck. Like, hold on a second. Just wait. Just wait. So we have this kind of baseline dry. And then you'll see that our estrogen begins to rise. Estrogen is growing inside the eggs, inside your ovaries. That's where the estrogen is produced. And as your eggs become more mature, one of them takes over and becomes one of the dominant follicles of that cycle, and it really starts growing in size. And the more it grows, the more estrogen is within that ovum. And that's how your body is creating all of this estrogen. And then it's from there that everything in your body is responding to these rising levels of estrogen. So your breasts get perkier because estrogen causes your fat cells to swell. There's 3 different kinds of estrogen. One of them is inside your fat cells. That's why we as women need nice, good, nutritious, nourishing foods. We're meant to have about 10 to 15% more body fat than men. And then as well, we also get things like hair growth, nail growth, skin cell turnover, because estrogen is a hormone of growth and building, growth and building, growth and building. It's building the tissues of your uterus during these times as well. And then basically once your body has peak levels of estrogen and it's ready to go, boom, an egg is launched, and the egg is only there viable and available for conception for about 12 to 24 hours once per cycle. But can you imagine how hard it would be if we as a species only had like 12 hours to get it done? Get it right? It'd be hard for the propagation and the continuation of the species, right? So what our body does is, while everything in our body is responding to estrogen, one of the most hormone receptive rich parts of our body is our cervix. And our cervix also responds to the estrogen in our ovaries by making this fertile hydrogel called cervical mucus. Has anyone ever seen stuff like kind of on the inside of their thigh, or you wipe randomly and one day you are just way more wet and slippery than usual?
Sometimes I'm just like walking around and it's like,
And it's probably like not in response to being aroused, right? It's just like you feel a sudden little gush. Yeah, we call that walking sensation. And what you're describing there is one of the ways that you would be able to be listening to your body to say, oh, I'm in my fertile ways. I'm in that handful of days that sperm can now survive and thrive because my pussy is going to feed them. Your yoni is like, come on in, have a little bed in my cervical crypt, like chill out here, the egg's not ready, we'll let you know. And the cervical mucus literally washes, bathes, and feeds them. So sperm come with their own little phylums, their own little condoms on their head. And part of the actual required mechanism of fertility is they need to swim and like bump up against your different tissues and your fluid so that it washes a phylum off of them. And then they chill out there until that magical moment that the egg is launched from the ovary. And then the beautiful thing is the egg literally sends out a biochemical signal to call the sperm forth. And the sperm that are now have been relaxing in your cervix for maybe 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, if they're super healthy, they then go to meet her. And as they go to meet her, she's able to change her permeability to only allow the sperm that she wants to choose in. So she has the ability to add an armor to one little guy on this side that she's like, yeah, no thank you. No thank you. And then she'll sense one and she will allow herself to crack and become porous and take it in.
That's amazing. And so, if I can ask about something, so there is an intelligence then that, how does the egg then assess if something's wrong with the sperm? It's the health of the sperm, I imagine, that our bodies just know to reject ones and want optimum the egg.
Yeah, so yes, you are totally correct. We're basically down to this tiny little level. It's the feminine that chooses, right? It's the feminine that is discerning, that is deciding when she opens. It is not what you were taught in sex ed, which is like the sperm are racing to get the egg, right?
digging in.
Yeah.
Whoever digs in the fastest.
Yeah, totally. And that like it's this thing where it's really coming for you. It's coming at you. It's like your cervix, most of your cycle, all the green days that you see on that graphic are dry and acidic and infertile. Your cervix literally produces a mucus plug that completely closes up any of the passageway, which makes sense because our body doesn't want access to an internal organ to be infected, right? So it literally creates this plug, and that plug only opens when fertile fluids are coming down and out of it. And as the fertile fluids are coming down and out of it, even we produce different kinds of cervical mucus that have different roles. So within our cervix, some mucuses we produce are denser and thicker because what they are doing is they are actually trying to block the less healthy sperm. And then as we move closer and closer to ovulation, it starts becoming more watery, more lubricative. It'll be clear or stretchy or slippery because basically then your body is like, okay, we were trying to weed out some of the less healthy stuff. But now we're like almost there. So just like whoever can get in, let's increase our chances. Let's go. And then the egg then does her next step of choosing and discerning. So they also, scientists don't know what this biochemical signal is, but they can observe it. That the sperm wait and the sperm sense that the egg is released, and then they go. So really what this all comes down to is your fertile energy can be channeled in so many different ways if you are willing to hold the responsibility of this magic, right? Because there is a responsibility in then you also embodying the same principles of who and what am I allowing into my yoni on fertile days. And then people sometimes ask, okay, well, what's the whole point of practicing fertility awareness method if I can't have sex at the time of the cycle that I want to have sex the most? And my response is always two things. If you're on the pill or the IUD, you're missing that time anyways, and you're not getting it anyways. And the second one is sex is a lot more than unprotected penis and vagina intercourse. There's so many ways to connect to your partner. And could this actually invite you into a better sex life, right? Could this invite you and your partner into a deeper reverence of you both coming together, understanding how your bodies work? Because guess who's fertile every single day? Men. Men. So can he take responsibility over where his sperm goes? Right? Can he take responsibility over where his sperm goes? Because it's only the short window in time that your body is actually pulling them up and in. So I could keep going on, but I feel like this is a good natural pause just to open it up for some sharing. How is this landing with everybody? What are you feeling?
I'm just wondering, does the egg like go right into our vagina, or does it like stay in the uterus?
The egg is conceived, meaning conception occurs in the first third of your fallopian tube, meaning the sperm go all the way up through your uterus, swim down the tubes, and then meet there. And that's what we call conception. That's what conception is. And then the fertilized egg travels down the tube, and that can take anywhere from like 3 to 10 days. And it'll be 3 to 10 day journey before it comes down and implants into your uterine lining that was built by your estrogen. So everything within our biology is cooperating to create life. But I also believe fully and completely that you also can work with your body cooperatively to avoid pregnancy also, right? We don't need to be like, you know, at the whim of that. I've heard of people seeking out the assistance of someone to like have an abortion or to release a pregnancy. And they've been like, well, if life wants to stick, what can you do? And I'm like, no, fuck that. If you don't want to carry this pregnancy, you don't have to. You don't have to be like, oh, well, it's happening to me. Because that's the whole old paradigm of our bodies and fertility, right? It's happening to me, rather than like, no, I get to make choices. And the same way that people make choices to support conception with prenatal and ritual and vitamins and all this stuff, you can also make choices that support your body to bleed as well, right? Because that's what you're doing, is you're just like, yep, the herbs I'm taking are guiding me towards bleeding, because that's what I would like to do. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I remember going to the doctor, and
Yeah.
they would tell me like, no matter what, like even on your like non-fertile days, if you didn't use protection on those days and like sperm like went in you, there's still a chance that you would get pregnant. Like, is that not true?
It's not true.
No.
So yeah, I've also heard doctors say things like, oh, well, you can ovulate again later.
Yeah.
So even if you ovulate, you can ovulate again a week later. That's absolutely not true. It's impossible. If you even take a look at that graph, after you ovulate, after that thing that's labeled peak day, you see we have a skyrocket of progesterone. Progesterone completely balances out estrogen, so it has the opposite effects. Estrogen builds and progesterone releases. Progesterone relaxes, progesterone softens, and progesterone also turns off any effort to grow. In your luteal phase, that inner fall, your body is like, I am enough, I've done enough, I've got nothing to prove. Your body literally preheats the oven for potentially a bun that will try to implant. And the reason why I brought up that topic when you asked me about when it happens is about 30% of conceived eggs don't even implant and are shed in a normal menstruation, and you don't even know that you conceived. That's possible. For sperm to meet an egg, but it just didn't implant, and you get your normally scheduled bleed, right? So that's more common than we even know, which is interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about like where to start. Because this really interests me, but my theory is like I feel like it can like ebb and flow depending on like how I'm feeling. So like if I'm really stressed,
Yeah.
it can like throw these like chemicals and stuff off.
Yeah.
So like how do you start and like stay consistent?
Yeah.
I know that might be a hard question. So
No, I'm so glad you asked that question because you totally just like geared me right back on track to like, right, that's what we're talking about today. I'm over here being like, all right, so within the films. And you're like, how do I do this though? Like, what are you talking about? So I appreciate that. So if we're talking about what this practice actually looks like on a daily basis, I'm going to pass this guidebook around. And in the guidebook, you can flip over into a few different example charts that I have here as to what charting actually looks like. And so these charts as they go around are the results of what you chart at the end of the day, each evening when you've spent the day in connection, noticing your body's fertile signs. So we talked about that gush we feel, that wetness that we feel. Does anyone ever see anything on their tissue paper? Tell me what you see on your tissue paper sometimes. Sticky,
Sometimes creamy.
like a raw egg white,
Like creamy sometimes.
creamy,
very slippery.
yeah, lotiony, very slippery. And like we said, it's not like your yoni is as dry as your skin, but there's always going to be a bit of something like the inside of your mouth. But that's different than another day where you suddenly are like, oh, something has changed, right? There's something new that is literally coming down and out of my cervix. And if it's going out of your cervix, down your vaginal canal, there's only one place for it to go. And where is that? Out on your vulva. So when we practice fertility awareness method, we're not even adding an extra step. We're learning how to wipe consciously with toilet paper every time we use the toilet. And we're learning to wipe front to back with a flat square tissue and then just looking at what we see. And we're doing that every single time our pants are down throughout the whole day. Before and after a shower, before and after we pee and poo, right before bed. And we're not necessarily adding this whole extra cervical mucus checking thing. We're just integrating it into this habit that we already have all day anyways. And then what you're doing is you're spending a handful of cycles really getting to know your own individual baseline versus fertile fluid. And of course, this might be easy enough for people to self-teach, and some people feel really great about self-teaching. I self-taught, and then I eventually did go seek out the help of someone like myself who's a certified FAM educator, and then they kind of gave me those last three things that I was like, oh, now I feel totally confident and it makes sense. And then that's what I teach people to do, is like much more in depth than what I just said in a few minutes, but basically that's that practice, right? Is like checking for your cervical mucus. And then cervical mucus is always the base of any fertility awareness method practice because it's the number one sign and it's in the moment, in real-time feedback about what is happening right now. And then what we do is we add a secondary sign to complement it and to strengthen its efficiency. So a common addition is taking your basal body temperature every morning. Have you heard of people doing that? So taking your basal body temperature every morning, because your temperature shifts if you're pre or post ovulatory. Cervical mucus tells you that that wave that's on the page has opened, and then a shift in your temperature tells you that it's closed and over. But then of course we have to get more into nuance of sometimes the temperature shift is obvious, sometimes it's not. The world doesn't come to an end if you miss a day, if you sleep in, etc. So there's a lot of variability there. And some people don't want to take their temperature. So you can do other things like add in checking your cervical positioning. You actually can insert your finger once a day, like in the shower, feel the texture, the opening, that change based on where you're at in your cycle, because that estrogen is softening it, opening it, and even tilting it so it's more receptive to sperm. So, although we have all these amazing mechanisms that cooperate with fertility, remember, most of the cycle, the body is doing the complete opposite, tilting the cervix away, so they can't even get back up and in there. Even if they get back up and in there, it's too acidic. They won't survive. Even if they manage to survive a few hours, there's a thick, dense mucus plug closing the cervix, right? The body only opens when it knows the egg is coming. And then another one would be like LH strips. Some people do like a pee strip once a day. And then there's even mucus-only methods. So fertility awareness method is an umbrella term, and within that there's lots of different kinds. So I teach symptothermal, there's Justice, Marquette, Billings, lots of different kinds of FAM. And really you get to explore and experiment and see how you can integrate it, just as simply as you integrate brushing your teeth, right? A daily habit of self-care that means that you just can take good care of this opening of your body. And you can do the same thing with your yoni. How can I monitor my health? How can I just have a deeper connection with what's going on in my hormones? Have a much more accurate understanding of when I'm ovulating, just for health and body literacy. And then boom, I know how to achieve or avoid pregnancy. When your cycles are irregular, you also, once again, are going to get more insight into what is really going on. Yeah. What does ritual mean to you? When you think of the word ritual, what do you think?
Daily, something that I do daily.
Something you do daily.
Part of my cycle.
Yeah. Part of your daily cycle. That's a ritual. What else do you think of?
Really like intentional.
Something intentional. Yeah, thank you. FAM is not a half-ass, I like kind of feel it and sense it and know. Nothing's wrong with that. Nothing at all is wrong with that. But that's just cyclical awareness. That's just feeling and sensing. Fertility awareness method is you have a chart, right? And a lot of people say they practice FAM when they don't, and then they say FAM doesn't work. And I'm like, well, where's your chart? Chart? What kind were you practicing? Kinds? Huh? Right? Who'd you learn from? A YouTube video? So, and once again, no shame in any of that. Like, people are going to go on their journey, and who am I to say that that wasn't exactly what they needed to experience and go through? But the practice is as efficient as your discipline and your devotion and your intentionality of your commitment to a daily check-in with yourself. Yeah. What questions do you have? Go ahead.
It's not so much like a question, but like many women here, I'm sure, like have gone on their journey with like birth control and stuff. I was seeing a gynecologist. I went there to get a copper IUD, and just kind of like your comment on mucus, just like turned on so many lights for me. I was getting chronic yeast infections because like my partner was ejaculating, and she told me, "Oh yeah, there's just nothing we can do about that." And I was like, "Okay." So and like also with that, like I was in excruciating pain all the time because my uterus was tilted and I didn't realize. And
Yeah.
Anyway, so removed that, got another one that was hormonal, lost my period, got that taken out surgically. Well, not they didn't show me out.
Yeah.
The surgery thing.
Wow.
That was traumatic. And then like my last appointment, she would not let me leave that office without a birth control script.
Yeah.
And I was so sick in my stomach, just like, this woman's not even listening to me. She's patronizing me. I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to use the rhythm method. And she's like, oh, I don't recommend that. It doesn't work. And I was like, well, I don't know about that, lady, but okay. Took the script, filled it, never took it, but I was just so disillusioned with that whole interaction that it's just, I've lost so much faith in the medical system, and particularly in the field of women's health, when this is how you're being treated by other women. Like, it's just so, like, heartbreaking, and how many women are just suffering because of, like, side effects from birth control. It's like, this is completely preventable.
Yeah.
You know, so like thank you for being up here and doing this work because like we're gonna share this like our sisters together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, what you're speaking to is such a common experience of being spoken to like a child in a doctor's office. Because the thing about patriarchal medicine is it's about like the doctor is the daddy and you're the little girl and you have to listen and be good. And I'm going to tell you what is good for you, right? Rather than this idea that, like I even said, who are we to ever even suggest that the full spectrum of the results of your irresponsible choices won't teach you something, right? Like, I'm not a fertility awareness educator that's really going to sit up here and be like, oh yeah, this will work. This works. I hope it works for you. I hope the method never fails you. But even if the method does fail you, doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean anything went wrong. It's like, welcome to yet another passageway of more fully meeting yourself in your capacity to be a creator and a destroyer, right? We have the ability to hold life. We have the ability to release life. And that's really what they don't want us to find out, right? That we hold all of that sovereign power. And then how is anyone going to be able to control us if we hold all the cards? Because once you know how your body works, no politician can take that away from you, right? Once you have a little unlabeled implantation inhibition tincture in your medicine cabinet that will last you well over 5 years, you know, once again, someone literally could come take it from you, but you know what I mean. It's like, if you have these sovereign skills and the whole game falls apart that's been happening since the burning of the witches, in which they needed to kill people like myself because it gave all of us the ability to make choices about our body. But then as Europe was transitioning from feudalism into capitalism, they needed more workers for the factories. And they needed women to produce dozens of babies, to have more workers for the entryway of capitalism. More, bigger, better. We need people. We need families in large number in poverty to work for the rich ones. And then you fast forward, and the way that this ripples across all these lands with colonialism, etc., coming over to this side, they saw the Navajo women down in the southwestern, now called United States, ingesting plants on a daily basis in really small amounts that was suppressing ovulation. That's actually what inspired the birth control pill. So that's where they got that idea is, oh, well, now that we've got enough workers, now that we've got enough of them, I wonder what we could do to actually just now give women the ability to turn it off. Because we would like unlimited sexual access to their bodies, actually. And not actually have to take any responsibility for any children that might come out of it. That would be fun. Let's try that. And so even the trials down in Puerto Rico with hormonal contraception oral, was only 100 women in the trial. That's nothing. And there hasn't really been that much more research on it all the way up until this day. It's barely changed. 4 women died in the study. 1 was by suicide. And of course, they would say, that's unrelated. Right? And other things, like you said, yeast infections, UTIs, inflammation, burning, tilted uteruses, all these things, because what you're seeing here is not just for the purpose of having babies. We don't only ovulate to have babies. We ovulate because it's just a part of our normal physiology of a process that produces sex hormones, produces a clear cleansing fluid, allows us to then menstruate, that just keeps the flow of a fresh, vital ecosystem moving, right? And when we have these different strategies from pharmaceuticals, it's just like stagnation, right? And the body is calling out, we don't like this, right? Your body's just in this acidic, dry state all the time. Yeah.
So where do you like learn this? Like, how do you get to know like the charts and everything? Like, I'm looking at the charts and they're like really confusing. So I think I need like help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are all asking me like the perfect questions today. Like, it's like you would think I just like planted them in, right? And I was like, and then you're going to ask me, how do we learn more? Yeah. So I am a fertility awareness educator.
Okay.
meaning that I walk people through really stepping beyond the fear of their fertility in their blood so they can actually chart this and feel really confident about it. So what I'm passionate about and really interested in is taking you to the full edge of responsibility. Like, we nerd out so hard and we get so specific, and I teach you how to layer on every single parameter and every single biomarker so you have all of it. And then from there, you then really work with the pure discipline of it. And then from there, you're able to kind of like ease off and it feels a little bit more integrated. And then you kind of start tuning into, oh yeah, like I won't take my thermometer away on this camping trip for the weekend. It won't really affect anything. Or like, oh, I missed these wipes today because I was, peeing in the bushes at a women's festival. The world won't come to an end. Like, you start to then tap into more of a nuanced, relaxed way of doing it. But that's very different than self-teaching and kind of never seeing the full breadth of all of it. So I really take you to the full breadth of understanding every little single note and marker on that chart. So, I mean, I had this one woman in my program and she was just like, yeah, like I remember looking at these charts and thinking like, what the hell do they mean? And she's like, I never thought that like 12 weeks later, I would be able to look and be like, I know how to use this for contraception that I feel really confident about. So I teach people one-on-one. I also teach in group. My group program is open for registration right now, actually. We start September 25th, but 5 out of 10 spots are filled. So I've got 5 spots filled, 5 spots left. Right now I'm running it once a year. So right now I'm running it every September. It's 4 months, and it's actually a deeper dive than just fertility awareness method. It's fertility awareness method is the web that holds the structure of the program while we journey through everything that somatically and emotionally comes up while we are reprogramming this relationship to our body. So while we're learning to track our mucus, we're also learning about like, well, what does it mean to like really consensually check my cervix daily and not just be like, I'm here to like extract data from my body so I know if I can like let my boyfriend come inside me tonight and be like a super chill girl, right? So it's really a lot more. It's about that full spectrum journey of really feeling confident about this. And then I also do one-off workshops. So August 28th, I'm offering a workshop called Fluid, and it's going to be just the art and science of tracking cervical mucus for body literacy. So we won't be going into the depths of contraception, but it's a 3-hour workshop that's just going to be all about basically how could you create little strips of colors like the ones there, just so that you aren't putting something into your phone and being like, hey, my cycle was 34 days, it was 32 days, it was 34 days, and not really knowing anything deeper than that. You would be able to track your cycle like the colors here, and that would be what your little history of cycle information would look like. So you would have more of a relative understanding just for body literacy to get you started. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah, go ahead.
So you were saying earlier that estrogen is released from the egg itself. So what does it mean then to have like estrogen dominance or like low progesterone and like all of that? Because now I know nothing.
Yeah,
Like-
cool. I love this question. So have you all heard the terms like estrogen dominance, low progesterone? That's usually the way it is. It's usually not the other way. I could talk about this for so long, but basically this is really common because we're exposed to all of these xenoestrogens, all of these endocrine disruptors in our environment that our body is perceiving as estrogen. Anything and everything that has fragrance labeled on it or perfume labeled on it is a mask for over 4,000 chemicals that are approved by the FDA if you just call it a fragrance or a perfume. So our body is absorbing all of these products that we are initiated into in maidenhood when we start dyeing our hair and literally spraying our body with like glitter love spell stuff from Victoria's Secret and putting different body lotions on and painting our nails. And it all goes into our blood system and our body just reads estrogen, estrogen, estrogen. So it's growing all of these estrogenic tissues. So we're getting all of that on top of our body's normal growth of estrogen. And then we're getting things like endometriosis, estrogen dominance, where the swelling becomes too much that you have pelvic pain around the time when you're ovulating, right? Or you're getting inflammation on your skin, or you're noticing breakouts not when you menstruate, but mid-cycle around the time you ovulate. So no hormone in your body is good or bad. We would like for them to be in more of a synergistic balance with each other. And so that's what's happening. But then on the other side, our body isn't producing enough progesterone, because progesterone, which is the opposite of estrogen, balances it all out, shares the same mother hormone as stress hormones. And your body will favor survival over thrival. So when your mind is in the state of going, are we chilling this week? And are we slowing down for the luteal phase and honoring the inner autumn and making this nice progesterone? No, we're not doing that. We're just going to keep on grinding, keep on working, trying to be linear in a cyclical world, trying to keep up with everybody else, right? Because I'm broken and I feel more tired, but my period is so annoying. Like, I gotta keep it moving. So our body goes, okay, we'll make you a bunch of adrenaline and cortisol to keep you moving, right? And then that's why we're getting these huge imbalances. So the question then becomes, what is your relationship to doing versus being, right? Are you able to sit in like, I am enough, I've done enough, I have nothing to prove?
Is that like
Yeah.
related to like really painful periods?
Yeah, so low progesterone is related to shorter luteal phases, and we want longer luteal phases so that when we want to have a baby, we're ready and our body is ready to really hold that life. And it's just balancing out anxiety. It's balancing out kind of like the frittery feelings of the height of ovulation. So it's really just about riding the wave. The deeper you allow yourself to go into those wild woman days and cruise into your menstruation, the more you're actually charging your batteries for a rhythmic rise back into ovulation. So, you know, I'm not here to try to be the same every day. It's like, how deep can you go and how high can you rise? The word muja is the Arabic word for wave. Yeah. And I was living there for a long time. I didn't just like randomly pick a random Arabic word. Yeah, go ahead. I don't know what time it is or anything. Somebody. Okay, cool.
I noticed that sometimes around my like fertile window or ovulation, I get moody, impatient, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's the opposite of what I should feel. Why?
That's a great question. I love that you're like, why? Tell me about myself, even though we just met. That's a great question. So she asked, I often feel like moody or impatient. That could be a sign, could be a sign of estrogen dominance, because when our estrogen is too high, we kind of move over that tilt of invigorated, vital, and outgoing into anxious and like irritated, because there's so much of that heightening hormone flooding our body, right? And we really just want to be able to channel it in good ways as well. And so even energetically asking yourself, like, am I giving this life force energy somewhere to flow, somewhere to go? Or is it just like, am I just like a kettle with the lid on, like boiling over in this fertile phase and not actually letting this chronic life force energy flow somewhere that it wants to go? Get creative. Yeah, get creative. And also the other thing with estrogen dominance is really working on your digestive health, because we need to have regular bowel movements to clear out our old hormones. That's how our body clears out hormones, is through good daily poops. Yeah.
Raw carrots.
Huh?
Raw carrots.
Yeah, raw carrot. Yeah, raw carrot is a good one. People like to have like a daily raw carrot salad just to help with that estrogen release. Yeah, you have a question?
My question is, what have you noticed in your work when it comes to infertility? Because I've heard the narrative over the last number of years that maybe it's more of a Western world narrative that it's really hard for couples to get pregnant, and there's this whole thing around infertility. And I believe part of those reasons are likely related to toxins, like you were talking about, stress, like the lifestyle, the
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so it's less the question, is there anything you can add in terms of what's happening and why are women having such a hard time getting pregnant in some cases really soon? And what was my other question? Why is it so expensive? Like this in vitro. Spend thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. When I was a full-time elementary school teacher, I worked with women that were going for in vitro a few times a year, and they never stopped dyeing their hair or drinking Starbucks coffee every day. Right? They had zero interest in having any ounce of introspection or reflection. Or like, do you even like your husband? Right? Like, I don't even think you like him. Versus this journey of like, once you step into this paradigm, everything's gonna fall apart, right? You're returning to your wild nature. You're returning to your animal body. You're returning to the absolute truth of where things are misaligned in your life. And that's really intimidating and scary for people to look at, right? Because the feminine is not this love and light. She's this dark goddess of fierce destruction that will move slowly through your life and rip everything down. And then what you're saying is, you know, they're really struggling. It's like, okay, well, at 16, she turned her endocrine system off, put her body in a state most similar to perimenopause with pharmaceuticals. And then at 35, she's being told by the doctor, well, take the pill up until the day you want to get pregnant. And then she stops the pill, and then she finds out that her body's fifth vital sign of her cycle has been turned off for 2 decades. She never got any feedback from her body about what is going on or what was off kilter. And now it's like, do it, do the thing. Now we're ready for you. Dance, right? Have a baby. And it's this like self, mechanizing of our own body that our uterus is a factory to be turned off and to be turned on, rather than a garden that needs caring, that needs tending, right? And really actually living in flow with that. And long before we ever seek to have a baby, fertility awareness method as our contraception is already preparing us for that. It's an integrative life skill over the entire continuum, right?
And then there again, somebody's breaking in, big dollars from people.
Exactly.
Lack of awareness. Or
Exactly.
lack of consciousness around these
Yes.
very things.
And then people say, I charge too much. You're not accessible.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I think I should get to pay my rent and book myself a massage every couple months, don't you think? Right? And so it's like, we have to decide, like, what do we value? Where do we want that money to go? Because investing in a skill like this means that you're just setting yourself up for that self-support for the rest of your life. You're not coming back to me every year with more questions. I hold Q&As for like my client coven, and they just don't come. Nobody comes. I'm always like, yeah, once you work with me, you'll have like lifetime access to just like a 2-hour group Q&A every 6 months. And nobody comes. And at first I was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, it's because they're good. We don't have questions anymore. They're fine. We really need to wrap this up. So a couple of last questions and sharing.
Okay. With that, so kind of on the same track of like fertility, infertility kind of stuff. So I've experienced miscarriages, and like I know there's spiritual reasons, all of that behind it. But then like some of them were what they would call chemical pregnancies. And for me, like I've been working on healing my body for a while, and I'm very aware like when conception happens. Like I can feel it, because I can feel all the weird like all the hormonal shifts, everything. So why is it that like I can feel almost like when conception happens and like the hormonal changes, even like a couple weeks prior to like an actual pregnancy test kind of thing. And then also if you do, like if it doesn't implant, or if you do experience like an early miscarriage, how does that affect your kind of tracking for until the next cycle? Like
Yeah, I mean, so basically any and all form of bleeding would be a new fresh cycle day 1.
okay.
Because one of my teachers, Samantha Zipporah, talks about the neutrality
Yeah.
of our physiology. And so our physiology is not discerning between abortion or miscarriage or menstruation. It's like the body is releasing down and out, the hormone profile is low, and the brain is going to start producing follicle stimulating hormone when it's ready for a new cycle.
Okay.
So all of that bleeding would be once again like a fresh cycle day 1. And everything you see on the sheet, like this is literally like scratching the surface, right? Like my group program is 8 2.5-hour calls over 4 months plus like one-on-one time. So what you have in front of you and this little piece of paper is for you to take home is that's what we call like a textbook cycle. But we're not textbooks, we're like living, breathing beings. So from that red day, the first day of your cycle, to peak day is going to change. If someone is postpartum, then they're basically going to be in like a 1-year phase before they ovulate, a 1-year luteal phase before they ovulate, before that happens again because of breastfeeding, right? And then pregnancy is essentially a really, really long luteal phase. So that after part, the last green days, a pregnancy is that just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. So you can have variability on either side of this. So this is like the textbook cycle, but then getting into the nitty gritty of all your questions, it's like, it would take me too long to give an in-depth answer. But these two parts of the cycle, follicular and luteal, are like dancing in very different ways based on where we're at in our womb continuum and what's happening in our body. Yeah, and thanks for being open about your miscarriages. Yeah.
I love that you can also tell if you're pregnant by charting without a pregnancy test.
Yes.
No more need for pregnancy tests.
Yes. Yeah, so along those lines, you can have what's called a biphasal temp shift. You'll have your first temp shift to tell you ovulated. Your temperature will stay high. And then you'll have another temp shift to tell you that implantation has occurred. And so once implantation has occurred, then you could decide to do all the things to hold life, or you could go start taking some Queen Anne's lace and seeing what you need to do to bring on a bleed. So there's a lot of power in getting detailed about charting our cycle. Yeah, so you could know if implantation occurred sooner than a P test would even tell you. Yeah. Jasmine, did you have a hand up for a share before?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to say I took one of your workshops like
Oh, yeah.
a few months ago, and I'm now like 1 month into starting my charting, and I just want to say it is so doable. It's not as hard as like you think that it's gonna be. Once you actually start doing it, you're like, wow, I actually know so much more about like all the mucus that's coming out, the positioning of your cervix. It's just like so magical to be able to like actually connect with your body. And it's like once you're so aware of like what's happening in your body, you become more aware of what's happening outside your body as well. So I just really encourage you all to like do the thing. It's gonna be worth it.
And you learn so much more than fertility, like your thyroid health and your metabolic health.
Yeah, thank you to my hype girls. Yeah, exactly. Like I have a bit of I'm on a thyroid healing journey at the moment, and that doesn't mean that I can't practice FAM. It gives me that much more reason to really be able to find out the correlation between what's happening in my throat and what's happening in my yoni, right? I'm not interested in like fixing myself. I'm interested in going on this journey and all the things that it has to teach me so that everything can just come back into synergy, right? And I get that insight from taking my temperature in the morning, right? So there's so much that you get out of this practice. Did you have your hand up? Last question, Sharon. Go ahead.
I remember it now. Okay. Do you know someone who sells Queen Anne's lace tincture?
Yes. Yeah, if you email me or get on my email list, I have a free resource document for all things that can support you in releasing a pregnancy. And then on there, I have a little list of people that, that you can just like contact through their website, and they'll just discreetly ship you a tincture. And it's like good people, right? Like good reputable sources, people connected to their herbs and to their land and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, everybody. Let's just take a big breath to close it off. Lift your hands into the air. Breathe in fully, completely, deeply. Look up. And as you exhale, drop the arms. Release a sigh, a moan, a sound. Beautiful. 2 more times, breathing in with your vibration of the plants and the animals and your body and fertility and letting it all go. And 1 more time, filling up your body, feeling that vital Shakti energy rising through your spine, and exhale. Gorgeous. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to pass around this clipboard if you want to get emails from me.